Well, with the Commons, as we've been hearing this morning, likely to vote against Theresa May's deal, campaigners are already looking forward to what the next steps will be. And to discuss those a little bit more, I'm joined now by Simon Thompson from the People's Vote UK, which is calling for a new referendum on Britain's relationship with Europe. Good morning to you, Mr Thompson. Thanks for being with us this morning. Now, your campaign is calling on MPs to reject Theresa May's deal today when they go to vote. If that does happen in Parliament, what would you like to see happen next?
Well, as your reporter was saying there, Theresa May's government is likely to suffer a pretty bad defeat today. And what we would like to see happen next is that MPs now get behind a majority for a people's vote. We know that the Labour Party's policy in the UK is to call for a general election. If they can't get that, then it's to back a people's vote, a referendum on the Brexit deal. We know that the Scottish National Party is also supporting a people's vote, as are the Liberal Democrats. There are also Conservative members of Parliament, those who publicly said they back a people's vote, and those who privately are saying that as well. And we may well see further support being expressed publicly after Theresa May's deal is voted down tonight. So we believe there is a majority for a people's vote, going back to the people because of the impasse, because in Parliament, the MPs can't decide themselves what is the best course of action. 2.5 years on, we know that the deal that was offered, that was promised to the British electorate, hasn't been delivered. People are very unhappy about what is on the table in terms of Theresa May's deal, and the best way forward is to go back to the people.
Isn't there a problem here that a second referendum could be open to exactly the same criticisms as the first one? So the campaigning tactics could be blamed, legitimacy of holding a referendum in the first place could be questioned, the result therefore discredited, and of course further polarisation in the country. With that in mind, would it not potentially be better to challenge the result of the first referendum through Parliament by petitioning MPs to vote down the deal and to try to hold a second debate or try to halt the Brexit process in that way?
Well, obviously, it's for MPs to decide the next course of action. It's down to them to try and find a way forwards. But certainly there isn't a majority, it seems, for anything else in Parliament, other than perhaps a people's vote. There may well have to be a series of votes in Parliament before they reach that conclusion. But certainly it seems to us as a campaign that there's a growing amount of support both amongst MPs, amongst the members of public, amongst businesses, business community leaders, that the way forward is to go back to the people. After all, this deal, as I said earlier, is just not the deal that was offered to people, promised 2.5 years ago. The people were promised to have your cake and eat it. They were promised that they would have the best deal, the best terms that we get now. And in fact, people are now realising that the impact that Brexit will have on their pockets, their household bills, on the NHS, on businesses. We're already seeing a number of companies on a daily basis saying they're going to downsize, close down, close factories, or already losing jobs. That is not the Brexit that people were promised, and it's right to go back to the people. After all, what can be more democratic than to ask the will of the people? That's what we do in elections, and that's what many countries do in referendums.
Well, of course, many people would say that the people were asked and they did decide. I mean, what would you say if the results of a second people's vote, a second referendum on Britain's membership of the EU, returned with the same result as the first?
Well, obviously, the first referendum was quite close and a narrow victory for Leave. But 2.5 years on, regular polling that we've conducted and other organisations have conducted really does show now that people are very unhappy with this deal and I think have now woken up to what Brexit means in reality. Brexit will hit the very people around the UK that voted Leave in the first place, communities in the north that have been forgotten about for years, areas that have suffered with closing factories and a lack of industry and lack of growth. So there are a lot of issues that a national government in the UK have to solve in terms of the problems facing the UK. But those are not issues that you can blame the European Union on. And in fact, I think people are now waking up to that fact that they realise that the answers are not coming from leaving the European Union, from Brexit. That will actually make the situation worse. Instead, it's for national governments to solve.